Giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Friday. Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live. We are streaming live on YouTube. And of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker Steele. Boom! We got a Good Friday show lined up for you, baby. The scientific method. Patrik Walker, our own insider, will join us, take us on the field, inside training camp, give us his general thoughts, and we will also answer some of your mailbag questions. Twitter went off with the mailbag questions, so we're going to head over to Twitter, shout out you guys, and see what we can come up with. Plus in the roundup, they indeed did sign 2 defensive ends. Y'all funny, man. I love y'all to death. Y'all are so funny. As soon as they signed my man, it was an Al, AQ. We just don't call him AQ. Immediately, my mentions. Hey, guys. It was hilarious. But shouts out to the youngish man. I mean, he's not that young. And we'll break it down. We'll break it down in the roundup a little bit. We'll talk about the 2 signings, and then we'll head on over into the scientific method with our guy Pat. But what's good with your Bomb Squad?
Bomb Squad!
How we feeling on this Friday? Yesterday, we talked about, or not yesterday, but practice yesterday wasn't a open practice to the fans. It was not a padded practice. It was more of like a walkthrough. They call it the mock game. Not even shells. I mean, it just got hats on, the jerseys, and they're just kind of, it's a chill day. So not a whole lot. So we'll talk to Pat about his overall thoughts on camp the first 2 weeks, and he'll answer some of y'all questions, all right? Let's go ahead and just get into this thing, all right?
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It is time for...
It's time for the morning roundup. Round 'em up, boys.
Let me talk to you.
Yeah, man. Y'all crazy. Allah Akbar is crazy.
Can't get it out.
You can't miss shows, man. I'm so sorry for those that have no idea why I'm laughing. Yesterday was just a very interesting start to the show. The Cowboys won out in the free agency market after working out 3 or 4 or so defensive ends. I think it was 4. One being Carl Lawson, and they walked away saying, nah, we're good, Carl. We're going to go with Shaka Khan Tony and Al-Qadin Muhammad. Our guy AQ, baby. Let's get a quick background check on these guys. So Shaka Tony played with Micah Parsons at Penn State for a number of seasons. A 7th round pick out of Washington. Didn't do a whole lot there defensively, but he played primarily on special teams. Then last year, he was suspended for the entirety of the 2023 season due to the gambling ban. So y'all remember what happened with Calvin Ridley in Atlanta? They implemented a new rule, and I guess Tony was out there trying to make a couple of dollars, and it didn't work out. So he got suspended for the 2023 season, didn't play a snap. He's here. They also signed our guy, Al-Qadin Muhammad. I'm glad I was told how to pronounce his name because I just didn't like how it was sounding. So Al-Qadin Muhammad, been around the block. This is his, I think, 4th team in 7 years. He's 29 years old. He also was suspended in 2023, but he was suspended 6 games for PEDs while he was spinning a block with the Colts. That was his second stint there. He is clearly the more accomplished of the two. Like I said, been around for 7 seasons, and he had a career year in 2021 where he had 6 sacks with the Colts. More of a power motor type of player from just a little bit that I saw. Veteran guy. You know, we talked about bringing in a veteran on the D-line. He is a veteran guy. Is he the answer to losing Sam? I don't know about that, but if, and this is a big if, both of these two make the team, I think Muhammad is the guy who will be more part of the rotation, and Shaka Toney would be more of a special teams guy. I feel like that's how it would roll. I have my doubts both will make the team. If I had to guess right now, they ain't even been out there practicing yet. Who do you think makes the team? Muhammad has the better chance to do so. But either way, I don't think either of these players are replacing what I think Sam Williams could have brought this season. But they couldn't sit on their hands. So, you know, yes, I give them credit, you know, for making a move. It's not a Yannick Ngakoue type, but they at least needed to bring some bodies in here for camp. Hopefully they're not done. And if they don't see anything from these two or the depth that's currently on the team, they go back out into the market and continue to try to get better. Now, why didn't Carl Lawson get signed? Maybe we will ask Patrik Walker here in a few seconds. I mentioned on Twitter because, you know, I put out the little highlight package. I tweeted out them signing him. I was joking around on Twitter. And, you know, we had fans that were, man, y'all wild on Twitter. We had fans that were all upset. But one of the fans had said something about, you know, this, why not Carl Lawson? I'm like, I wonder if Carl Lawson did not pass the physical. Remember, that was one of the things we talked about yesterday when Carl Lawson's name was obviously brought up and he was brought in for a tryout. I said, look, if he passes the physical, if he passes the test, yeah, sign him up. But if he doesn't, then obviously not. I just have a hard time believing that, and maybe they can spin the block and re-sign him, but that he went out there, passed the physical, and they said, nah, we're good. I don't have anybody telling me that. I'm just thinking maybe all the injuries are catching up to Carl Lawson and he just didn't look good out there. And a guy like Muhammad, who's just coming up fresh off of PEDs, right? He fresh off of juicing. Didn't play a whole lot last year. Shaka Toney didn't play at all. Those are fresh guys. I wouldn't say younger than Carl Lawson. And not as injured as Carl Lawson. So they might have looked better. You could say, well, this guy also money. Yeah, I don't know what Carl Lawson could have been asking for. He did get a nice chunky check with the Jets. But I have to believe with the injuries, the inconsistencies playing, his market wasn't nearly as high as he would think. But is it vet minimum low? He probably doesn't feel that way. And y'all just know Stephen Jones wasn't going much higher than vet minimum. So that's my thought on what could potentially have happened with Carl Lawson. Maybe he didn't pass the physical. Maybe he was just, instead of $38, Vach, he was $50. And they weren't trying to come up to $50. You know? Other than that, we got Kadeen Muhammad and Shaka Toney as the 2. We'll see how they do out there. You know, I don't really have any expectations. But if I had to guess who would be the guy that plays a little bit more, it would be Muhammad. You know, you're going to see Marshawn Nealon take advantage of those snaps. Marshawn Nealon's probably, you know, they said Sam Williams was supposed to play 75% of the snaps. Marshawn Nealon's probably going to play 70% of the snaps now. I don't think he was going to play that much. Now, who's the next guy? that would probably be Muhammad if he makes any waves in camp. If he doesn't, man, he just move on along. We went from DQ to AQ. Oh, man. Swain said, this is exactly how most Cowboys Nation reacted to when they signed.
Who in the blue hell are you?
Fair. These aren't household names. You really got to dig. And, depending on the type of fan you are, you can spin this thing as, hey, they got a veteran defensive end. He had 6 sacks in 1 year. They got a young guy who's got something to prove. If you're that side, the other side is, who in the blue hell are you? Now, as we get going here in today's show and we hit the mailbag, they're still looking at a different position. And we'll talk about that hopefully with Pat and see if maybe we can get a little bit more insight on it. Because I think what is happening is they get down there at camp. They see what they have. Now they step back and say, okay, we could add here. I joked about a specific position yesterday saying, well, I don't think you needed to wait to get to camp. But this team is so, like, they love to lean on young, unproven guys to see if they can hit a gym. And I don't know if they've done that yet. So it sounds like they're looking to add on that defense line still. Swain said he's meh on the signings. Yeah, where you at, Cowboys Nation, on these guys? I mean, I can't imagine anybody's overly thrilled. Camp bodies, says Nix. I would like to believe that. Right? Like, I would like to believe all these are just guys. But they legitimately need defense and help. And so I think one of these two, probably Muhammad, has a shot. Move Clark to Sam. Beef up the linebacker core. What do you mean, Swain? I believe he is. I mean, according to Demo, that's what he's playing. But linebacker core seems to be fine. Seems to be fine there. Too much for dollar store Steven. Yeah. And yesterday when I was talking about, hey, I signed Carl Lawson and Yannick Ngakoue. Look, that was a dream. Not even really a great dream, but that never was going to happen. And Ngakoue and Carl Lawson were never going to sign for vet minimum, both guys. And that's where Dallas is looking at. Historically speaking, they just aren't trying to bring in those types. Last time they did that at that position, correct me if I'm wrong, Robert Quinn off of a trade, but Robert Quinn was better than all these dudes. And they haven't done it since 2019. So they like to, every so often, they'll step in there and we'll send a 6th round, 7th round pick for Quinn and then let him hit free agency after he gets 14 sacks. They'll do something like that. We'll throw the 1st round pick to Amari. But flat out in free agency, they haven't done that since Brandon Carr. Haven't done that since Brandon Carr. All right, as we wait for our guy Patrik Walker, I want to save that question. I want to save that question because I do want to talk to Pat about it. So I'm going to save that question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly wrap to Banks on the horn here, and then we'll see what's up with Pat. What's good with you, Banks?
What's going on, Sky, man? It's been a minute since I called in, man.
I feel like it's the first time we talked since since camp started, no?
Yeah, man. I kind of took the summer, took a little break, man. I'm coming on back around, man. I'm coming on back around to, I know some fans have been out because still kind of, the Green Bay game on my. It ain't even that for me, man. It's been this front office, man. Every time Steven and Jerry open their mouth, man, I just. I'm like, man, just. And then we got.
What you got to do, Banks, is you just got to focus on the football, man. Just got to focus on the football. That's all I tell people, Yeah.
Well, you know what, Sky, I was when I seen we was, I seen we was, trying out some, some edge rusher ends. I'm like, okay, and I'm quite sure me and most of the fans were thinking Carlos, and then, and this, we go into the Dollar Tree bucket,
I would like to know why, though. I mean, look, I understand the Stephen Jones cheap aspect, but I would like to know what happened with Carlos, because I would imagine
absolutely.
they had a dollar figure prior to Lawson even arriving. Maybe talking to his agent, hey, what's the ballpark he's looking at? And if it was too much, they would even bring him in. So the fact that they brought him in for a workout tells me they would have been comfortable had it worked out. My guess, right? So either one or two things happened. One, he looked great and said, you know what, I'm going to raise my price. Or two, it didn't look so great physically. And they said, nah, we're good. We'll go with these other guys.
Yeah. I'm going to be quick with the two things I'm going to say. I just hope it won't, where he just wanted a couple more million than they wanted to pay out, man, and it won't that much. Like, I really hope that's not it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That just looks.
Well, I'll talk to people down there. We'll see. We'll see what the answer was.
And also, man, I'm just we know what it is with the defensive tackle position. I'm just ready to see come preseason and the rest of camp, especially when we had a joint practice, just what it's going to be with these running backs, man. I'm just ready to see. We know it's Zeke, Rico, but do you think we'll get a full view of, you think the other, do you think everybody will get that due? You feel we just going to roll in there with, I know everybody say they'll see what we got, but you think we're going to roll in there kind of what we got? You think everybody get, full chance to display?
Oh, in the preseason in camp?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because Zeke's not playing in the preseason. I thought Rico might play a game, but it sounds like Stephen Jones wants him to work for his roster spot, so Rico will probably play. But Zeke won't play, and the rest of these guys will. You got 3 games. You got 8 backs. I know it's going to be tough to get all 8 involved, but they'll get their shot for sure. And now the regular season, depending on who they decide to bring in, do I think all 4 backs will get a share of the carries? That's a different question. I'm on a wait and see approach for that one.
Yeah. The main thing when we sign Zeke, man, I don't mind the Zeke signing. I just don't want us to. I don't think they will. I'm not getting that from it, but when he was last year, man, one thing we got. What happened was we got caught running behind Zeke. A hobbled Zeke. It was hurt, and whether. I just want to get caught running behind 3 yards of carry. But I do. Yeah. But that's all I got, man. And
hey, Banks, appreciate you, man.
Yeah. All right, sir.
Salute. All right, what we're going to do, we're going to start the mailbag question. I don't want to hold, or the mailbag segment. I want to hold y'all up. Pat is tied up at the moment. So whenever he's good to go, we'll bring him in and maybe we'll revisit some of these questions. But let's kind of go backwards a little bit here. We talked about the defensive end position. We're going to move over to the defensive tackle position. You ready, Cowboys Nation? Let's do it.
It's time. It is time for
the most electrifying move. All right, scumbag, pay attention. It's time for mail call.
You've got mail.
Here we go. This is the first question, or actually, I'm sorry, another question that we'll get at, but I want to touch on this question first. Marcus G over on Twitter says, how much has Mozzie Smith improved from last year? And he has 2 questions. Sneaky. And he said, what defensive tackle, 1 tech from other teams do you think Dallas can give up a 3rd-day draft pick for? We'll start with the first question, Marcus G. How much has Mozzie Smith improved? So what I try to do, not being there, right? I never try to pretend like I'm there. So I just try to ask questions, speak with people who are there, follow things, listen to people who are there, etc. We've heard from some down there that it looks like he's trying to do that, right? He's trying to improve. He's putting in the work. And Coach Zimmer spoke about him yesterday. And Zim said, hey, man, I'm pleased. I'm pleased with what I'm seeing. You know, he's getting at it. And he's doing what we're asking him to do. This was the actual quote from Mike Zimmer yesterday when they went to the podium. And on Monday, we're going to revisit some of the coaches, especially Shotty. I loved his interview. Mike Zim said this on Mazi Smith, quote, what we're asking him to do, he's doing a really good job. You might not see him make a flash play, but we see him taking on double teams, getting his hands in the right place. I see him understanding where he's supposed to be. He's not going to be a speed rusher by any stretch. He's going to have to be a power rusher and push the pocket. A lot of that, what we saw up there, if you guys remember 2 weeks ago, we talked about looking at the film from 2022 or 2023. I'm sorry. A lot of that is what we saw coming away from the film. Let's see here. Taking on double teams. Wasn't great at doing that last year. Getting his hands in the right place. Wasn't great at doing that. Understanding where he's supposed to be, right? The awareness wasn't there. Those things alone, to me, Marcus G, if he is doing a good job at that and improving in that, then that means he's improved, right? And all along, like I said last week, Mazi Smith by default should be better. The how much better is the question. And it sounds like he's getting better. I'm not there. I'm just taking from what I'm hearing from obviously coach, what I'm hearing from people that are down there. There's a mixed bag. It doesn't sound like he's popping, but that's I don't think you're going to pop too much because they can't tackle anybody. Wait till we get to preseason. Then he continues and says, but as far as the run game, what I've seen so far, I've been impressed with him. He's doing a really good job. Now he's got to keep it up. I've enjoyed what I've seen with him along with the rest of the defensive line. That second part sounds a little bit coach speak, but the first part to me is what I take away from this. The hands, taking on the double teams, knowing where he's supposed to be. It like Zim said, they're not flash plays. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that's you could say, Sky, we reaching here. Hey, call it what you want, man. I'm just looking for small improvements from the kid. And in the meantime, in between time, because I had this conversation with a fan on in the comment section, you know, he was saying something along the lines of, hey, man, give Mozzie time and all this stuff. Look, let me talk to you here. No, he's not on the phone. Mozzie's going to get time. That's not the issue, right? Like Mazi Smith is a first-round pick. He's only in his second year. Mazi Smith is going to get time. No one's worried about that. He's going to be here for at least another 2 years, maybe. At the very least, right? Unless they pull a Taco Charlton situation. But he'll be here for at least the next 2 seasons. Time is not a problem. Who doesn't have time is the coaching staff on 1-year deals, right? Is the veteran guys on 1-year deals that are here. They don't have time to be like, oh, we got 2-3 years to let them keep going. So my rebut to that is, okay, cool. Mozzie has time. Put Mozzie over here with his time. Let's continue to add to the room. Let's continue to make the room better around him or with him. Right? That's where my thought process is as he's developing. They brought back Hankins for a reason last year. Right? So my man said, what defensive tackle from other teams do you think Dallas can give up a third-day draft pick for? One tech? Look, there's a lot of one techs in the league that you could probably trade a third-round draft pick for. But I'm a bit crazy. So I kind of did a little bit deep diving on this and tried to piece a bunch of things together. And I came away with Josh Tupu. Again, you're probably like,
who in the blue hell are you?
Josh Tupu. He's currently with the Baltimore Ravens right now, Cowboys Nation. Before that, he signed a 1-year deal with Baltimore for like the vet minimum, so it's not going to cost a lot. Before that, he played 7 seasons with the Cincinnati Bengals. And that coincides with, if you do the math, you guessed it, Paul Gunther, the Cowboys run game defensive coordinator who's helping the front seven. He's a 6'3", 6'4", 340+ pound nose tackle that's played in the AFC North, a physical AFC North, that's played with two physical defenses, right? Cincinnati and Baltimore. He's 30 years old, so he's a veteran. He's been around the block. This could be your Hankins type of move. So for me, Josh Tupou would be that trade a third-day draft pick. Now, I don't think they want to do that. You know, the Cowboys love holding on to these draft picks. Third-day draft pick, I'm getting rid of them if it can bring me in a veteran I think can help me. But the question was, who do I think? I got Josh Tupou out of Baltimore currently, but he was with Cincy for the last 7 years. 6'3", 340 plus. You need something like that on this team. Now, is there other guys out there? Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about day 3 picks. There's a whole bunch more. But what I tried to do was tie things together. A guy who knows the system, a guy who knows the coach, a guy who's played in a physical conference, a physical division, bad weather, cold weather. He could bring some toughness to that front seven that possibly could have been lacking, right? So that'd be my guy. As for the remaining of the question there, how much has he improved? Look, I don't literally know, but just listening to what Coach Zim had to say, if his hands are getting better, if his awareness is getting better, and he's doing what he's asked to do, that in of itself is an improvement, right? It's an improvement. How are we feeling about those? Let's go see it. Quentin Bohanna. Yeah, where Q at? Q with Tennessee? I know it was Detroit, Tennessee, something like that. Roy likes it. Josh Tupou. Temu. He looked like he part of the bloodline. Like he gonna get signed by the bloodline at some point. But look, all you need to know is 340 pounds, y'all. Oh, Swain, did you sneeze? Y'all are crazy. He said black. Josh, I choose crazy. How many future picks we got? Why F them picks? Give me some quality. I'm with you, man. I'm with y'all. I'm with all y'all. If you're down to trade a day 3 pick, I'm sorry. Did he say day 3 or did he say round 3? Okay, third day. I had to make sure you didn't say third round. He's with the Lions now? Okay. Shouts out to Quentin Bohanna. I think he would fit fantastically with this Mike Zimmer scheme. Now, if Pat does come on here, I want to ask Pat about the Mozzie Smith situation. Let's get to question number 2. And question number 2 comes from our guy, L. Jean, over on Twitter. L. Jean says, if Izzy has a strong preseason and Carson also has a strong preseason, how many corners are you keeping? This sounds like Johnny had 2 apples. He gave away 1. How many apples does he? So me and Vosh talked about this last week, right? And we weren't sure what was going on with Trey. Right now, it looks like Trey is going to be available. So I'm going with the thought process that Trayvon Diggs is available. So you got Diggs, Bland, J. Lou. There's 3. You got Carson. There's 4. I have to believe Eric Scott's not getting cut, but this is a new regime. But I have to believe they're not going to give up essentially 2 picks worth because they traded a pick and then they picked Scott. That's 2 picks in 1 year. So I'm going to put Scott on the roster. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if Izzy continues a strong preseason, I think he has to be your last one in, right? That'd be 6. With the caveat being CJ Goodwin, who's a special teams ace, listed as a cornerback, but he won't play cornerback. So we're talking true corners. I don't know how many they carried last year going into the season, but I would say 6. I would say there's going to be some roster gymnastics, maybe. And based off of what you're saying, LG, Izzy it balls out in preseason. And Carson's here, so I don't think it matters with Carson. He's going to be here. Diggs, Bland, J. Lou, Carson, Scott, Izzy. Am I missing anybody else? I don't think so. I mean, the rest, you got Josh Butler, Josh DeBerry, Nashawn Wright. I mean, I guess Nashawn could be fighting with Izzy for this, but the question here is if Izzy's having a strong preseason. Who's your 6, Cowboys Nation? Oh, poor house picker. Oh, Lord. He said at this point, Trey Lance might be a better coach. Don't do that, man. Yeah, Swain, I don't think I've seen anything to say that Eric Scott is better than. Well, I don't think we need to throw in Bell or JT. I think those guys are the safeties, but better than Izzy. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Scott. Truly, I have no idea. I haven't heard anything down there about Eric Scott. I don't like to just go off of highlight plays from camp. Those are fun. Don't get me wrong. I love to see it, right? Because we'll see some of the highlight plays, but then you'll talk to somebody that's down there, like, yeah, he might got a pick here, but there was this and that, right? That won't be reported as much. That's why I hate not being there. But I haven't heard anything. So the only thing to me that Eric Scott has going for him is that he has the draft pedigree-ish. They gave up. There's 2 draft capital picks attached to his name. And I just can't see them just saying no off, after a year. And yes, Izzy does have the position flex. I reached out to my guy. I think I actually talked to Pat. And I was like, hey, are they still moving him around or is he focused at one position? He is still being moved around. So he's not at one spot. They're trying to figure out with Izzy. Could it be, that his versatility gets him on the team? Maybe. Pat right there. I think Pat might be coming in. So let's see what happens here. Shouts out to the bro, CFT in the building. He said, Scott, my brother, I need your help. He said, can you ask Pat to check in on the progress of Junior Faoko and Chauncey Golston? Are they maybe serviceable? You know what? Got you, bro. Let me go ahead and we're going to give him about 5 minutes. Give Pat about 5 minutes. He West Coast time. And I'll run that question by him, man. In fact, we might turn the whole segment into, hashtag Ask Pat, because I want to continue on with some of these questions as he's getting things together. Izzy, I do this ninja. Yeah, Swain. He do got that run. Izzy do got that run, hit, talk, ish mentality, but the dude who said that is no longer here. It was cute 2-3 years ago whenever he said it. Then he just was trash after that. So I hope we leaving that alone. You know what I'm saying? I agree, Jay. I mean, Izzy over Wright and Scott if you take away draft pedigree, 100%. Queso said, can one corner beat out Goodwin for special teams, please? Yeah, a lot of y'all been trying to get CJ up off of this team for 2-3 years. The problem is CJ Goodwin's so good at what he does. He's the best at what he does. They value that. They value that on special teams. And with this new special teams rules and things, it's going to be hard to push him off this roster, man. And honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal, man. I mean, what you're talking about is can cornerback 6 kick off cornerback 7? Can cornerback 5 kick off cornerback 6? I mean, you go historically, look at the cornerback 6s of this team, and what are we talking about, right? So if they aren't better than him on special teams and they don't provide that value, it ain't gonna happen. What Nick Saban say? It's not happening, so quit asking. CJ like that on special teams, man. That's like asking, hey man, can one of these receivers or corners kick off Slater on the Pats? Bill will look at you like, man, you off your rockers. I don't care about this wide receiver 7, cornerback 6. What Slater brings to special teams makes a difference. And that's how they feel about him, All right, let's get to question number 3 real quick, which is this shouldn't take too long, but it's an interesting question. This one comes from Get Jacked over on Twitter. He said, could we turn John Stevens Jr. into our X receiver? Now, that's obviously not going to happen, right, this year. I'm not totally going to dismiss the thought, Jet Jack, because Was he 6'5", 6'6"? He's pretty smooth athlete too, right? For that size. He's got good, strong hands. He's still not your average size tight end. He's still apparently, I think he's still in the 220s, maybe 230s, like low 230s, which now we're starting to creep up into tight end territory. But coming off the ACL, get jacked. I don't know that you're trying to do that right now. But let's just have fun with the question, right? If you want to turn him into your physical X wide receiver possession guy, I feel like that has to be done prematurely. That has to be premeditated, right? Hey, season's over. It's February. JSJ, we want you to look back into going to wide receiver. That's how I think you have to look at it. I don't think that's something that you just, in Madden, I used to do that all the time. I would take a certain player, put him in a different position. His rating shoots up 10 points. In real life, you have to work at that craft. And what he was working at in the offseason was rehabbing, getting better. Now he's just trying to figure out the tight end position. So I would say no. I would not try to turn him into an X receiver today. But it's interesting moving forward. That's all I'm saying. It's interesting moving forward. Let's go ahead and move forward with none other than our guy Patrik No C Walker of DallasCowboys.com on this week's version of the Scientific Method Man. You don't get the full breakdown. What's up with you, Pat? Let's get a bit.
The alarm did not go off this morning.
The alarm didn't go off?
Pacific time. It did not go off. I happened to open my eyes and it was like 7:17, and I got hit with the O moment, and I was like, bro, I'm here. We up. Let's cook.
We up. We here, and I understand. This is your third year out there. I was only out there one time, and adjusting to the time difference to do a morning show, it was something, bro. It took me 2-3 coffees. It took me 2-3 alarms. It took me not to be out the night before. I was really on my straight edge game out there. I'm gonna just say that.
Yeah. It takes some adjusting, man, because it takes a while for you to not be on Texas time, and then by the time you're not on Texas time, it's time to go back home to Texas.
Indeed.
So yeah, I'm up. We here. Getting the blood flowing. Let's talk some football.
Let's do it.
Football though, not attendance. Football.
Wait, what do you mean? I mean, no, I'm just playing. I've been watching your Twitter,
whatever
dog.
Whatever do you mean?
I don't understand the whole situation. I mean, some people like to talk that. I don't really care for it too much. I like to talk about what's going on.
You're one of the real ones. One of the real ones. That's why, I'm on this call right now at 7 a.m.
I hear you.
You're one of the real ones.
We appreciate you, bro. So like I said, this is your third time down there, right? 2022, 3, 4. Yes, this is your third training camp.
Third time with the team.
Yeah. And the last time we talked, there was only like a practice, I think, that happened. So there's a lot that's been going on between the last time we spoke and today. And the other day, the consensus seemed to be, man, what a fantastic practice. What a great practice. And you're hearing whispers of, hey, man, these practices under McCarthy lately have been a little different than before. They seem a little bit more spirited, a little bit more physical. There seems to be a different tone coming out of these practices. Are you noticing a difference in this year's so far training camp as opposed to the last two?
I think, well, first and foremost, I can honestly say that the intensity. I'm not saying the intensity is ratcheted up, because you've obviously had intensity in the last couple of training camps with McCarthy. I mean, Sam Williams and Tyler Biadasz, they were throwing hands last year, right? But I have noticed that the intensity has started much sooner, right? And this is something that I spoke to, and we talked about it, and I put it on Twitter as well. But this is something I spoke to back in mandatory minicamp when I asked Dak Prescott about it. I said, "Hey, man, I'm noticing that you guys are in training camp form already out here at mandatory minicamp with the celebrations and the trash talking and the efficiency of play and the throws and the interceptions and things like that, and just how they were going back and forth." And I asked him, I said, how much of that is a good sign to already be in Oxnard mode
in mini camp in early June, and he was like, it just goes to the preparation and the focus and the understanding of what's on the line this year for so many people, player and coach alike. So, I mean, it's evident because, you know, that was the second padded practice that we came off of, not yesterday, which was the mock game, but the day before. And already some guys were throwing hands, and the interceptions and the touchdowns, it's the back and forth, and it's the trash talking, and it's the intensity. And I mean, there are some things there are a lot of things that don't make it to Twitter, but there are some of the trash talking moments between both sides, offense and defense, that don't make it to Twitter, that I'm standing there and I'm just listening to the back and forth, and I'm like, ooh, these cats they're really going at it, like verbally as well as physically. So, but to see that already happening, you know, after the first padded practice, second padded practice, it just goes to not necessarily the intensity changing, because it's always been intense in a McCarthy training camp, but it's not waiting until, you know, the fifth padded practice, the sixth padded practice, or after the first preseason game. No, man, they're getting to it, and they're getting to it early out here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good sign. I mentioned this the other day. You want these practices to be, you know, spirited and chippy and physical, so that hopefully the game is easier. I remember some of the 90s players saying, yo, practice was harder than the games. And obviously that transitioned over into the regular season games.
Right, and that's exactly what it is. I mean, the practice leads to the games, the preparation, how you prepare, how you carry yourself in practice, how you carry yourself on a rep-to-rep basis. All of that is going to be exactly how the person that you're going to be in the games, because what you don't want to do is kind of go through the motions in practice and think that when the game comes on, you're going to be able to flip that switch. Now, are there, you know, inhuman humans who are able to do that? And yeah, but those are the Kobe's of the world and the Jordans of the world and, you know, the Michael Irvins of the world and the Deons of the world. And unless you're that particular person, unless you're that kind of a mutant, then, or metahuman, then you need to make sure that your ass is intense and ramped up every single rep. And, you know, to that point, that's why I love so much what Tyron Bailey Johnson told me a couple of days ago. And that's why when I was listening back to the audio of our conversation, I just felt, you know, kind of compelled to put that out there in the Twitter sphere, because something that stood out to me, not only the business aspect of it that he was speaking on, but also just how important every single rep is for him, because to his word, he doesn't want to just be a superstar at training camp and at practice. He wants to do that on Sundays. Yeah. And he's not the only one that feels that way, because as I'm talking to guys, you know, especially a rookie like Tyler Guyton, hell, I put Tyler Guyton to the side a couple of days ago, and we were just having kind of like an off-the-cuff conversation. And I'm asking him, it was just me and him walking, just you know, two guys walking, talking ball. And I was like, so how you feeling? How's it, you know, transition going and everything? And we were talking about that. And, I mean, practice is over at this point, and he's still talking with this intensity in his voice like he just finished a rep, and he's frustrated that the rep didn't go the way he wanted to. So I asked him, I said, you know, you sound frustrated. Tell me about that. Like, what, you know, what's going on there? And he was like, man, I'm not a rookie, dog. I'm not a rookie, dog. And I was like, okay, expand on that. And he was like, man, I'm trying to be perfect. I'm trying to be the greatest ever. Like, I'm not a rookie, dog. He kept saying that so he can hear himself say that, right? So, and this is a rookie, right? And you love to, you know, also hear that from the fact that it's your rookie first-round pick. But that's the mindset of these guys out here, man. Like, they're even your first-year guys, they're not coming in viewing themselves as rookies. They're coming in viewing themselves as, you know, professional football players who are trying to get a gold jacket as early as like year one. And that's focus that you don't often see. So it's good to see.
Let me stay right there real quick on Tyler Guyton, because, you know, he was coming off a fantastic, or no, I'm sorry, spectacular practice, from the words of the great Patrik Walker. And I thought, okay, cool. He was in there with the first team. Sounds like there was some injury things going on with Chuma, and he played, or he did really well at practice. I would have loved to see him come back out and see if he can stack days with the first team, but they inserted Chuma Edoga back in there. Is that a sign that Coach Solari is just enamored with Chuma Edoga as a starter, and they're just going to say, hey, Tyler, you'll get in there if something happens, but not as a starter day one?
You know, in the first padded practice, well, first, let's take a step back from the first padded practice. The first mock game, which was the opening day Saturday. So the first mock game, I noticed, and I put it out there on Twitter. Again, shameless plug. So if you're not following me on Twitter, you're missing a hell of a lot.
Missing out, yeah.
Yeah, but in the first mock game, I noticed that it was Guyton on the first team versus Michael Parsons. Now, it didn't start that way. He started out on the second team, and then he graduated to the first team. And there was nothing wrong with Udoka physically at that point. They really were putting Guyton against Michael Parsons. So I put that video out there. Guyton, he walls off Michael Parsons, despite Micah trying two moves, tried to speed rush, that didn't work, and then tried to get him with the Dwight Freeney spin, and that didn't work either. So then you still had some people, you know, who were like on Twitter with replies, and they're like, oh, well, the pads aren't on. Okay, all right. First padded practice, all right. Udoka not necessarily goes down with injury, but he left because he was being evaluated for a possible injury. He's since come back, but he was being evaluated for injury, so obviously Tyler Guyton goes to first team reps in the first padded practice and has a spectacular day against Michael Parsons. So now the pads are on. Everybody's going full speed. What are the excuses? No excuses at all. Second padded practice, Chuma Udoka was back on the field. He was healthy, but Tyler Guyton still got some reps with the first team. So that goes to the question that you're asking, in that, yes, the first padded practice, Chuma Udoka left with possible injury, being evaluated. So here you go, Tyler Guyton, throw into the fire. Let's see what you can do. Second padded practice, because he had done so well in the first padded practice, is that a healthy Chuma Udoka was still kind of pulled at times in first team reps for Tyler Guyton. And then yesterday in the mock game, some of those first team reps still went to Tyler Guyton. I posted a couple of still videos. We couldn't do a video yesterday in the mock game because they were actually going through plays and situational things like that they don't want out in the public. But I posted a couple of stills, and if you look at those stills, guess who's the starting left tackle? It's Tyler Guyton. So it's much more than just, oh, well, Udoka was dealing with something, so he's like, no, he's actually earning these team reps as early as, you know, July 30th, 31st, August 1st, and there's still several weeks to go between now and the first week of the regular season. So he's really, and I told him this, I said, hey, man, you got to prove me right, because I had a prediction back in May that you would be the starting left tackle week one. So I was like, hey, you know, do me a favor. I was halfway joking. I was like, hey, do me a favor, man. Do me a favor. He was like, man, I'm working. I'm getting there. And I was like, facts. So, yeah, he's cooking, man. He's cooking.
Yeah, I love that kid's mentality. Let me get to a question from my guy, CFT, Cowboys Fan Talk, and it's a good one because I'm not hearing much about it, but he wants to get a check-in on second-year player Junior Fehoko and what's going on with Chauncey Golston. You know, two defensive ends / defensive tackles. Like, where are they fitting at? What's going on with them? Just kind of a progress report.
Chauncey Golston and Junior Fehoko, look for them to be popped out to defensive end as early as maybe today's practice. Today's going to be the third padded practice, and I was told to expect to see them taking on more defensive end work, even though the Cowboys are, you know, bringing in Al-Quadin Muhammad and Shaka Toney on signing. Those were two of the four workouts that they're signing to, you know, possibly join as early as today is the goal. So even with those two defensive end ads, you're probably going to see Chauncey Golston getting more reps on the defensive end. You're likely going to see Junior Fehoko getting more reps on the end. And I think that for Chauncey, that might be a positive, because if you recall, if everybody recalls, yes, Chauncey Golston started his career in the NFL with the Cowboys as a defensive end, and he was moved inside to help with the depth at that position. But being that he's going into such a critical year, it's a contract year for him, and they really need him to break out, I think that it would work in his favor. I mean, he's made some plays. He's flashed on the interior, but my opinion, subjectively speaking, he flashed more so when he had his opportunities off of the edge.
Yeah. So
would like to see that. And as far as Junior Fehoko goes, obviously, former fourth-round pick from last year, wasn't able to get on the field at all with Dan Quinn, and is looking to do that now with Mike Zimmer. But they don't know exactly what the total package that they're getting with like a Shaka Toney or Al-Quadin Muhammad. It's a situation where, you know, Muhammad has, I think, 39 starts in 86 games, something like that. So he definitely has the experience. He has much more experience than Shaka Toney does. But Shaka Toney has the chemistry with Michael Parsons from their time together at Penn State. He has chemistry with defensive line coach Jeff Skonina from their time together with the Washington Commanders. He was the 7th-round pick of the Commanders back in 2021, I believe. So there's a little bit of promise there, but until we see them on the field, I really can't give you a scout report on how they're going to fit. So, but I can go ahead and tell you that Chauncey Golston has been getting reps at the edge. Junior Fehoko has been getting reps at the edge after the loss of Sam Williams. Will they continue to get some? You're just going to have to beat out these two newer guys in order to keep that going. But especially for Junior Fehoko, he's got to show Mike Zimmer something that apparently he didn't show Dan Quinn.
Yeah, for a lot of these guys, their sponsor is not in the building anymore. And that's always kind of the scary thing when your defensive coordinator is one good season or one yes away from taking a job to some of your picks just not mattering. We've seen it happen before where, who was it that came in here and Jordan Lewis had to prove to him that, hey, I don't care, I'm only 5'10". Chris Richard. Chris Richard gets here, and that's not Chris Richard's guy. And next thing you know, Jay Lou's not getting a lot of snaps. So that could happen with Zimmer. But the best way to combat that is to just go out there and ball, period. And they have no choice but to keep you on the field.
But especially for a guy like Mike Zimmer, because Mike Zimmer is much less a guy who's about the name on the back of the jersey, and much more about the guys who are following the assignments and doing what they're supposed to do. And if you're not doing it how you're supposed to be doing it, which is his way, then there's a problem. And that's just the bottom line. So if you're a guy, regardless of the name on the back of the jersey, if you're a guy who's, hitting the meeting rooms and hitting practice hard with every rep, and, you're very coachable and you're doing everything that he needs you to do the way he needs you to do it, you're going to get playing time. And that's how you do it. And that's how Junior Fehoko and guys like Chauncey Golston are going to need to be in order to continue to earn their reps. And I did see someone in the chat ask, how many DEs do you need? That's a fair question. To that, I'll pose a question. How many DEs do you have?
Come on.
How many do you actually have?
Bodies are just bodies, okay. Bodies. But
no,
where's the quality?
Bodies that are going to change games. How many of those do you
That's what I'm saying.
Have?
Yeah, where's the quality?
You have DeMarcus Lawrence. You have Micah Parsons, who's going to be more of a versatile weapon. Go and read the story I put on DallasCowboys.com yesterday. We had a conversation with Micah. And for the first time, he really went into detail as far as what the plan looks like for him. And key word here is where's Waldo? You're going to have to find him. So he's not always going to be plugged at off ball. He's not always going to be plugged at the defensive end, which means it goes back to what I'm saying. You have DeMarcus Lawrence, and then you have rookie second-round pick Marshawn Lee, who hasn't taken a snap yet. And then you have Chauncey Golston, who's being moved back out there. You don't know what that looks like just yet. You have Junior Fehoko, who's being moved out there. He didn't play at all last year. You don't know what that looks like just yet. You have Tyrus Wheat. He has talent. Absolutely, he does. But can he break a game open? Don't know. Haven't seen it yet. Darrell Johnson, can he? Don't know. Haven't seen it yet. And the list goes on and on.
Right.
So, yes, you have all of these bodies at defensive end, including now Shaka Toney and Muhammad. But have any of those guys not named Micah Parsons or DeMarcus Lawrence broken an NFL game open at least once, let alone twice, 3 times, 4 times? You don't know. So, yeah, you got a whole bunch of bodies, but do you actually have a bunch of hymns at defensive line? Hell, do you have more than 1 or 2? So that's my problem. And obviously with losing Sam Williams, but then there's a ripple effect because when you pull out Chauncey Golston and Junior Fehoko to the edge, now what you just did was sacrifice defensive tackle depth that you don't really have in the first place. Okay, so that's the bigger impact of losing Sam Williams is that, yeah, you got to throw more bodies at defensive end, hoping that you find another him or another couple of hymns, but then you have to siphon that away from defensive tackle. So that makes the position that has the biggest need have a bigger need.
Yeah, let's stay there on the defensive tackle situation because prior to the signings, I believe, of Al-Qadim Muhammad and Shaka Toney, I believe I saw on Twitter from Clarence Hill that, quote, Stephen Jones told me the Cowboys are looking for DT and DE help. So that the part I'm looking at here is DT because this is the first time I think I've heard from one of you guys down there on the record at the very least that yes, they are officially looking for help, which is a bit shocking to me because all offseason, Pat, we've seen them bring in 100 linebackers, 100 corners, 100 DEs, no defensive tackles at all, not even for a workout. So maybe they were waiting to see what these young guys look like at camp, and here we are 2 weeks out of camp, and Steven's like, yeah, we looking for help. And that's off the heels of Mike Zimmer saying, hey, we like what we saw from what we're seeing from Ozzie Smith. I'm impressed with him. I'm happy with his progress, et cetera, et cetera. But it sounds like the team is not content on just sitting on their hands at that position.
No, and I don't think they've ever really been content. What I think they've been doing is trying to get to this point in training camp and actually further into training camp and see more from not only Ozzie Smith, because no matter if you like it or not, they're throwing the keys to Ozzie Smith at nose tackle. But then the question becomes, what's his progression look like in addition to what does a Justin Rogers look like, the rookie 7th-round pick at that position? And they're trying to figure it out from there. But I think they've always had kind of their ear open for some of the free agents that are out there. I put a name out there like Linval Joseph earlier this offseason. I put it out there again recently. I'm going to put it out there again right now. There are names out there. There are mercenaries. And, a guy like Joseph also has a pre-existing relationship with Mike Zimmer. So, that's money in that capacity as well. So I absolutely think they're going to end up adding – I thought they were going to end up adding a veteran defensive tackle before this point.
Same.
But then, like I said, when you lose Sam Williams, and then that creates this vacuum on the outside that then sucks talent from the interior where you're already lacking as far as depth is concerned. Yeah, you're going to have to figure that out, because on the interior, we talk about how many hymns do you have. You only have one. His name is Osa Odigizua at 3-tech. Outside of that, you're still trying to figure some things out. So I do think they bring in another defensive tackle. I do find it interesting that, someone was like in the chat, stop being scary, ask the questions, defensive tackle, ask the question. We have asked the question. Pay attention. Pay attention. You're not paying attention. If you're paying attention in class and not talking, then you know that those questions have been asked time and time again. But here's my point to that is, if I ask you what you're having for breakfast tomorrow and you tell me it's Captain Crunch, and then tomorrow I ask you what you're having for breakfast the next day and you tell me it's Captain Crunch, and we do this dance every day for 14 straight days, hypothetically speaking, and every day your answer is Captain Crunch, even though I know that eventually you're going to change to Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Right. Eventually I ain't asking no more, because the message you're telling me is that I need to start believing that you love Captain Crunch. Ozzie Smith is their Captain Crunch. Whether you like it or not, the answer for them at starting nose tackle is Ozzie Smith. That answer won't change simply because I keep asking the question. So we have asked the question, we've asked it time and again, and we're getting the same answers. So now I'm no longer seeking your verbal answer. Now I'm watching your actions. I want to see the transaction wire. I want to see who you bring in for a workout. That's what I'm watching. So that's why lately I'm not asking the question, but if you were paying attention in class, I've asked that question like 23 times this offseason. So thanks for putting that back up in the chat.
Some people might say that, Ozzie Smith ain't Captain Crunch. He's the off-brand, like Craven Crunch or something. That's what some people might say.
I don't know, man. He's put some weight. He's put some weight on, man. So he put the weight on. That's the first box he's checked. His get off on the ball is quicker than it's ever been. That is not an exaggeration. I've been proving that with videos.
Yeah.
So use your eyeballs, because that is not my eye test. That is me seeing it and then giving you evidence to it. So he's checking the boxes. He looks like he's playing with more confidence. I love the leadership of Micah Parsons, keeping the young man engaged mentally from rep to rep, getting him engaged before practice, and just kind of keeping him loose, but at the same time letting him know what the standard is and the expectation is. So I caught a couple of those headlines because a couple of my followers pointed it out to me. Some of I call them the Comedy Central skits at this point, shows like Speak and things like that, where they're taking what Micah said and they're spinning it for views and engagements, and it's just like, oh, is he attacking the young man? No, he's not attacking him. He's saying the quiet part out loud. He's not babying him.
No, we need him.
He's leading him.
Yeah.
Right. He's leading him. He's saying it's not about what I expect of Ozzie Smith. It's about Ozzie Smith knowing that he needs to get the job done. It's do it or don't do it at this point. You're a rookie first-round pick, and guess who can relate to that? Micah Parsons, the first-round pick. You come in as a first-round pick, and they're going to toss you the keys, and you have to get it done. But then he didn't just stop there. He actually said he's mentoring the young man. He's helping them with this and that. And then when you see him on the field doing exactly that, it's not just words, it's action. So I do like where Mazi Smith is progressing. He's checking all the boxes right now. I was asked on Wednesday, is he ready to be the starting nose tackle effective week 1? And I was like, don't ask me that on like July 31st. I said he's on the right track.
Right.
The train is on the right track, headed to the right destination, which is more than I could say last year at any point in time. So that's a positive. But let it play out. Ask me again in like 3 weeks, and I'll have a better answer for it.
What I liked to hear yesterday from Coach Zim was not the coach speak part of, we like what we've seen, and really I've enjoyed everything along with the rest of the D-line. I liked when he got to the nitty-gritty, the details. He said, hey, his hands are in the right place. He's understanding where he's supposed to be. He's taking on the double teams. Those are small things that he just wasn't doing well last year consistently. If he can do that, and this part I do agree with Zim, he's got to keep it up. If he can stack days just doing those basic things, that is improvement from Mazi Smith. And that's all you can ask for, because if it sounds like for me, Mazi is a guy that needs to have that confidence, and he'll get down on himself a little bit because he's young. He suffered a little bit with mental health last year, and you don't want to get him in a bad space as he's growing and learning how to be a professional. So if he can just stack these days like this, I think you'll have a better Mazi Smith come week 1. How much that's to be determined.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'll also add to the fact it goes to playing demeanor as well, right? And something that I love that I saw, and I crave more of this from Mazi Smith, is in his battles with Brock Hoffman, those things are heating up to the point where they almost threw hands after a couple of reps.
In his battle,
I put that video out there as well. Yeah, he's
his battle with
Hoffman. He, you see him taking on double teams, which is exactly what Mike Zimmer wants. He wants to get him back in that Michigan mode, nose tackle, eat up the double team that frees up the other guys. So he's taking on combo blocks here in camp, and then just the battle with him and Brock Hoffman at the end of one combo block, he tried to throw Brock Hoffman to the ground just out of pure anger. Like, I saw the Michigan Mazi show up in that particular frame, and then Brock Hoffman, if you're learning anything about Brock Hoffman, he wanted smoke.
He wanted smoke.
So he gave the smoke right back, and they almost threw hands. But cooler heads prevailed. But what it told me is a couple of things. Is Brock Hoffman is going to make it difficult, and I do believe Cooper Beebe still has a chance to win out at center. He absolutely does. But they were right. Brock Hoffman is not going to be an easy move. He is not an easy move at center. But also, it's helping to bring out that dog that's in Mazi, because I called him yesterday. I called him the lumbering bear, where it's like if you poke the bear enough times, he's going to get pissed off. He's going to start mauling people, and that's what you want.
Yes.
But the problem is if nobody's poking the bear, then he kind of just like hibernates, right? So and that's what Michael Parsons is doing. Michael Parsons, Brock Hoffman, those guys, they're trying to continuously poke the bear from rep to rep. And I saw in a few plays that once that bear is poked, he really starts wanting to maul people, and that's a beautiful thing.
Hey, man, some nuggets drop right there. Some nuggets drop. You mentioned Brock Hoffman and Cooper Beebe. I would love to get a little bit more detail on that battle, because right now it's definitely Brock Hoffman leading the way. But I just kind of low-key just want to know what's up with Cooper Beebe. How's his progression going? I know he was working on the shotgun snaps. But what are you seeing from that standpoint for Cooper Beebe?
Right now, for Cooper Beebe, it's really just the shotgun snaps. And the way I view it is, until he masters the shotgun snaps, it's going to be virtually impossible to move Brock Hoffman. The good news is that he's making progress, absolutely. So in those shotgun snap drills where they rotate each quarterback to each of the centers in that particular set, so it'd be like TJ Baz, he was getting some reps as well at snap. As far as in the snap drills, don't go forgetting about Baz, because he's definitely there, but also Dakota Shepley, and then Cooper Beebe. He looked much better. He's making progress to the point where he's getting high-fived by Brian Schottenheimer. So there you go. Now, that being said, I feel like until he masters shotgun snaps and it becomes muscle memory, there's going to be a component of overthinking that Brock Hoffman doesn't have to contend with, because Brock Hoffman is already comfortable with snaps. So for Brock Hoffman, it's muscle memory. It's snap get into your block set. Okay. For Cooper Beebe, until he masters that, he's going to be overthinking the snap. So it's snap. Did I do that right? Block set. You know what I mean? And that split second of thinking, that mental pause, is enough to get your quarterback killed in a 3-drop, 4-drop situation. So I think that for Cooper Beebe, it's exactly what Mike McCarthy said. It's reps. They got to get him more reps, as many reps as possible. He's going to get all he can handle in training camp and in preseason, most definitely. Now, is Cooper Beebe on track right now to be the starting center in week 1? No. As we have this conversation, he's not on track to do that. He really needs to get those shotgun snaps down, and then it needs to become muscle memory so he's not overthinking it at the line of scrimmage post-snap, and then it ends up compromising his blocking, his ability to block, which we know that he can do because he can dirt guys. But he's got to get the other component down. Brock Hoffman has the shotgun snap component down, the snap component down. So, and he has the demeanor as well. So he has the same demeanor as BB. Can he dirt guys as often as Cooper? I don't think that he could. So that's a little bit of a sacrifice. But at the same time, I'd rather at this point know that I have confidence in my center to be able to make the snap and still be in front of the guy versus to, possibly dirt the guy, but the snap is over Dak's head. So what did dirting him matter on that particular play? So just let the rookie come along. Before it's all said and done this season, I believe Cooper Beebe will definitely be the starter. But as it stands, Brock Hoffman has the experience, and he's leading on that.
Man, fantastic stuff right here. And this final question, which actually comes from the mailbag, I think is going to heavily lean on that offensive line situation that you were just talking about here. But this comes from DC Moore over on Twitter. He says, even factoring in the running back room, it seems like Dak has more weapons this year. He mentions Tober Brooks, Turpin, Schoonmaker having good showing so far. And he says, plus being the second year of Mike's system, do you think this offense will be better next year? So the first part of that question, I think, is up for debate. I don't know that they've added any more weapons. It's just a matter of using the ones that they already have. But his second part of the question, I want to kind of get your thoughts on, based off of what you're seeing so far out there at camp, where he says, second year in this system, do you think the offense will be better?
As far as the passing game, I think it will be better in the capacity of it'll get off to a faster start.
That's what I think too.
Yeah. The reason they got off to a slow start, well, one of the reasons they got off to a slow start was offensive line issues, injury at multiple positions led to a carousel of different front fives, and then the chemistry wasn't necessarily there because they had to constantly learn each other. And if you're Dak Prescott, you can absolutely have confidence in any one particular guy, like Zach Martin, for example, whom you have infinite confidence in, or Tyron Smith when he was on the field. But at the same time, if it's a carousel unit, when you're talking about front five as a whole, you kind of wonder, if this protection is going to hold up on the blind side, the right side, up the middle, and that might lead to some extra thought from Dak Prescott, and then that messes up the timing of a route, whatever. So that's one aspect as to why they had a slow start. The other is even more obvious in that it was the first year of Mike McCarthy's Texas Coast offense. Yeah. So they had to go through the entire offseason of heavy installs, learning the playbook, learning what they're supposed to be, learning the expectations of McCarthy as far as a play caller is concerned. And then here comes the regular season, and now it's time to institute this and put all of those into, play into real time. And it was a bit disjointed over the first 4 or 5 weeks. Absolutely it was. But then when they got going, you saw what it did for a guy like Jake Ferguson after a slow start, Brandon Cooks after a slow start toward the back end of the season, CeeDee Lamb after, some disconnects between him and Dak Prescott in like game one when they were up in New York, and the defense mostly won that game 40-0. But of course, there was elements, but I don't want to hear that because football is football, play your game. But now the difference between then and now is that there aren't the heavy installs. Guys know where they're supposed to be. They know what the playbook looks like. They know what the expectations are. And these are conversations I've had with a guy like Brandon Cooks, and I've had this conversation with Dak Prescott, had this conversation with Jake Ferguson and some of these other offensive guys, Kevontae Turpin, as recently as yesterday, I believe, or a couple of days ago. And it's everybody's using the same word. It's comfort. It's comfort. Like, they know what the expectation is, so now they can just play football. Jalen Tolbert said the same thing when I asked him. Now they can just play football knowing that when this set is called, when this play is called, here's my timing, here's my, ... So that will improve by virtue of a faster start, I believe, offensively, passing game. Running game, that's really what's going to dictate if this offense takes the next step.
Yep.
That's where you got to draw the red circle, because although they were the number one offense in the league last season, they were not great at all in running the ball. Part of that was because of the offensive line situation I just spoke about, which is definitely true, but two things can be true at the same time. And the other thing that was true is that the running back core just didn't look as effective as it has in years past. And a large part of that is because it lost its identity. In the Zeke Pollard years, it had its identity. You had the sledgehammer, you had the sword. You had the sledgehammer, you had the sword. You know what you were getting there. Sometimes Tony would out-rep Zeke. Sometimes Zeke would out-rep Tony. Two different styles, contrasting. It worked. That's what Skip Pete loved so much about it. Fast forward to last year, you move on, at the time at least, from Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle and Tony Pollard don't have contrasting styles. They more or less have a similar style. And then you try to turn Tony Pollard into Ezekiel Elliott, and it didn't work. And as a matter of fact, it took away from his explosiveness to do so. And you kind of you shot yourself in the foot and the calf, for that matter. So now you go back and you get a Royce Freeman, and he's starting to impress, by the way. He's making some waves. And you bring Ezekiel Elliott back, and Rico Dowdle, you bring him back on a one-year deal. But you still, with Hunter Lipke, you have 8 bodies in that running back room. And I will approach it like I approach the defensive end position, like I said earlier. For those that are saying, well, how many running backs do you need? How many do you have?
Right.
So, right now, to the point where you're trying to get Deuce Vaughn wide receiver reps, because you can't figure out, it seems like you can't figure out how to really get him involved as far as being an impactful guy in the backfield, taking the ball as a handoff. Like, there's a lot to figure out there. Rico's getting first-team reps. Zeke's getting first-team reps. I've seen a sprinkle of Royce getting a rep on the first team here and again. Malik Davis. You have so many guys, but who's the guy? So they got to figure out the running back situation. And you figure that out, and this offense is it could be one of the best ever. But if you don't figure that out, then, come January, you're going to have some problems.
I echo a lot of that. I expect it to be better in the sense of they'll get off to the better start. They'll be more comfortable. Year 2 in the offense. Dak is an all-pro type quarterback. You got an all-pro wide receiver. I think you'll have an all-pro tight end, just saying, and Jake Ferguson. And you hope in year 2, McCarthy and the coaches add some tweaks, and it sounds like maybe that's the case. Listening to Shotty, we shall see. So I think in that aspect, they'll get off to a faster start. But in order for it to be truly better overall, it'll come down to the run game. Point blank, period. And I'm not even asking for a lot, Pat. I just need the run game to be consistent, efficient, and complementary. It doesn't even need to be a top 5 or 10 run game. Seriously, as long as it's top 10, maybe in yards per carry, top 10, maybe in goal line touchdowns. I don't need it to be some dominant. I just needed to complement your all-pro quarterback and weapons. That's all I needed to do. But if it doesn't do that, then I can't see the offense being better.
Yeah, and I'm with you right there 100%. Because your passing attack is so lethal, right? You don't necessarily need to have a 2,000-yard rusher or even 2 1,000-yard rushers. If you give me a combination where it's like, 800 and 700, but it's, let's say 13, 14 touchdowns between the top 2, oh, man, you are cooking in this offense, because, again, your passing attack can be lethal when it's on, when it's firing on all cylinders. You just need them running attack, I'm speaking of. You need the running attack to be effective, not disappear in games, and just know that maybe 4 to 5 games, 25% or so during the season, at some point they're going to have to win you the game, because inevitably the passing attack is going to get slowed by just an off day by them, and or the defense having figured something out and they're exploiting it, and the Cowboys just can't counteract that for whatever reason. So in those games where the passing attack is just disjointed, yeah, you need your rushing attack to really take over those games. But that's really what you need. You don't need them to take over every single game. You need them to be able to take over maybe like four to five games, and then the remainder of the games just not be the reason that you're struggling to get a lead or maintain a lead or anything like that. So when you get down to the goal line, you need to have a power back who can get in there and get it done and not, bounce it outside and run for the pylon and fumble in Miami and cost you the game and things like that. You need to have a guy like Hunter Lipke, who also in Miami takes the ball, just go up the middle, young man, just protect the ball, but don't put it on the ground and fumble and then help cost you the game. So little things like that they need to clean up, and hopefully they have.
Hopefully.
But really quick, still before you get to the next things, I know somebody had a great question in here.
Yeah, that was the last one. But go ahead.
Oh, somebody had a great question. I did want to address this because I was speaking on it a couple of days ago. Somebody said they wanted to ask me about the run defense, and I can't find you in the chat, but whoever asked that question, shouts out to you. Mentioned it. Yeah. Shouts out to Special K if that was you. And if not, whomever it was, thank you for presenting this opportunity for me to speak on that, because a couple of days ago, I've been watching it the entire time, but I really keyed in on it in the second padded practice, and I wanted to see how the gaps were being filled as far as the run defense is concerned. And what I saw was just flat out freaking sensational. And in large part, it was because of the linebackers. Folks, these linebackers are not kidding around. And this was with Eric Kendricks not on the field. Eric Kendricks he's been having a fantastic camp, by the way, but he missed second padded practice with back tightness. I'm told he's expected to be back on the field today, so no real concern there. And if they do hold him out today, it'll just be precautionary. But Eric Kendricks, he's been doing extremely well. But even without Eric Kendricks on the field, second padded practice, what I saw was Damone Clark, just a monster in the run game. What I saw was Willie Harvey Jr. just flying all over the field, both in coverage but also in run support as well. I saw DeMarvion Overshown doing it. I mean, these linebackers, the way Micah Parsons as well, the way they are identifying gaps in run in a potential rushing set, and then post-snap filling the gaps. They're doing them in a way where they're playing off of each other, right? So there was one particular set, to give you guys an example, where I believe it was Rico Dowdle, first team, and he goes up the B gap off left of center, and Micah Parsons took the inside, and I think it was Willie Harvey Jr. took the outside, and almost at the same time that they did that, to kind of clear a little bit of a lane, like occupy those two guys, those two would-be blockers, here comes Damone Clark crashing down like a freaking locomotive to meet Rico Dowdle at the line of scrimmage and drive him back. Now, 2 plays later, it's Zeke taking the first team rep. Handoff from Dak Prescott. Zeke is eyeing the B gap right of center. Before he could get there, Damone Clark comes down, crashes down, skates past Toomey Doga, puts just this nasty move on him, right? Gets hands on Zeke 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage. Right as Zeke sees him coming, is like, oh, crap, and then tries to bounce it outside because the B gap is completely destroyed. Not by Damone, because Damone came in from the opposite B gap, from the left side, and he was still able to get hands on Zeke 1 yard back. But what also helped Damone was not only the move he put on Edoga, but it was the fact that the left side of the defensive line, and guess who plays there? Mozzie Smith, right next to DeMarcus Lawrence. Those were clogged. There was no lane there. So this run defense has done that time and again over the first 2 padded practices. And if they can continue to do that, it just goes back to what I've been saying, in contrast to what our beloved compadre KD Drummond has been saying with his linebackers don't matter. I'll never understand that. So what are we talking about, KD? Me, bro.
I mean, we should know Sean Lee didn't have defensive tackles, and he was amazing. So.
Yeah, these linebackers are flying, and anybody who knows football knows that, as much as stopping the run is on the front 4 or front 3, if you're running the 3-man front or 3-4, but as much as it is on the defensive line, it is equally as important for your linebackers to be exceptional at recognizing, closing, and crashing down. And, man, I'm telling you, these linebackers are not kidding around. They're just not. So Mike Zimmer coming into the fold and having run defense as his number one and number two thing to get accomplished is showing, and it's already showing, and I just can't wait to see more of it. They just need to continue to build on it. It's consistency at this point, but now I've seen enough to know that this run defense can be wildly better than it has been in the past several years.
2 words for you, Paul Gunther. If the run defense improves, Paul Gunther will have a lot to say about it, man.
Like it. I like it a lot.
Hey, Pat, I need you to get some rest because we got SummerSlam tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, and new wrestling. We're covering SummerSlam all weekend. And make sure you got your notification bells on because we will have a recap video. Won't be live, but we'll have a recap video going over SummerSlam.
Yeah, we're doing it. So just make sure y'all follow And New Wrestling on all platforms. It's And New Wrestling Pod on IG. Go ahead and hit that follow button on Twitter because we live tweet, all 4 of us live tweet from that account, and you really never know which one of us is dropping the tweet. That's part of the fun.
I do. I know who's dropping the certain tweets, but y'all don't.
You do because you know
I know
us so well. Like, you know your brother so well in the Horseman pack. But yeah, man, just make sure you guys follow, subscribe, show support. It's off to the races on YouTube. It's off to the races on all the platforms, Twitter, and we're having fun, man. SmackDown is tonight, the SmackDown before SummerSlam, and then tomorrow, live tweet of SummerSlam. That's going to be ridiculous, especially considering I think we all can agree Real Tribal Chief will make his return. And on that episode, the latest episode we just dropped on YouTube, I put a prediction out there as far as another surprise return that I think might happen, but I'm not going to spoil it. You got to go watch it. And then after SummerSlam, we got the Instant Reaction podcast coming that'll be up not long after the PLE is over. So, hey, man, if you're a wrestling fan or even if you've been wondering if you should get back into wrestling or even if you're curious as to why we get so amped up about this stuff, man, come tap in. Enough said. Come tap in.
You think we passionate about the boys. We're just as passionate about the wrestling world. So, hey, appreciate you coming through, Pat. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to press the button and get up out of here off of this because you can't top what Pat just did, dropping so many jewels. So if you guys missed it, please run this back. We'll probably drop a little bit of this over the weekend. But if you guys missed it, run back the scientific method because you dropped some dimes on Cowboys Nation. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, fun as always, man. Talk to y'all next time.
Push the goddamn button. Push the goddamn button.
It's a hard out, but it's an out. I can't top that, man. Appreciate Pat for coming through. A little late, but it's all good. He still brought the fire, man. A lot of nuggets dropped right there. Make sure y'all run that thing back. Y'all have been fantastic in the chat. Thank y'all for coming through this weekend. I'll be back Monday covering some more of camp. But tomorrow, And New Wrestling. Selfish plug. Be out here. Peace.